Welcome to the Talent Transformation Podcast. Our guest today is Kerstin Wagner, the Executive Vice President of Talent Acquisition at Deutsche Bahn, the German National Railway. Kerstin, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation.
Well, it's great to have you here. I thought we could start by maybe you describing to us a little bit more about what Deutsche Bahn is, because I know it's more than just a national railway, right?
It's a mobility and logistics provider headquartered in Germany, in the wonderful Berlin, our capital in Germany. And we move people from A to B with our trains, high-speed trains. Probably you've already seen our ICE, that's the high-speed train in Germany, but also regional trains, but also buses. And we're also moving goods from A to B, like by trains, but also by planes, by ships with our logistics provider. And the third pillar we do real construction. So we construct tracks, we construct railway stations. So whatever you see in terms of mobility infrastructure, so we do ourselves. So that's us.
Okay, so that's interesting because it's more than what most people think. Can you give me an idea, like what is a strange job that you would have in Deutsche Bahn that we wouldn't see in a lot of other companies?
So we are quite a lot of people. So on a global scale, we are 330,000 people around the world in many, many countries. And in Germany, in our home country, we are 220,000. So many people already there. And actually, when I started my job at Deutsche Bahn, we kind of counted how many jobs we really have to recruit for. And we ended up with 500. That was 10 years ago. And I guess that we are way more than 500 different jobs. And in that variety, what is the most strange job? We have a state-owned beaver advisor. Not kidding, but we have that. We also hire cooks. We also have a lot of engineers. We have a lot of IT people, and I don't know if there's really this strange job, but there are also unique jobs in all this variety.
So it's a pretty big variety. The railroad as a brand, railroads have been around for 150 years.
Yep.
How do you make working at the railroad exciting for the next generation? Are you thinking about that?
Oh, absolutely. So branding, the employer branding, it's one of our core issues, how to position ourselves as an attractive employer in all these markets. And therefore, we have to tell the story around, what is mobility all around? What is railway all about? And what is so attractive? And people currently look for a sustainable employer, an attractive employer in terms of where I can have a meaningful job. And that helps us quite a bit because working for us, I'm always telling that, you're an active climate protector because with railways and the railroad, you really save a lot of CO2, for example. And therefore, that helps us, and that is great in order to get in touch with people and talk about this fascination of mobility, of new mobility, of also saving a lot of CO2 for this planet.
Yeah, that probably resonates quite well with the new generation.
Absolutely.
So that's
Absolutely.
interesting. And how do you go about getting that message out? I mean, because you're in, are you in 49 countries? I think.
Yep. 40 countries.
Yeah, that's a fact that I had in
That's
my head
good.
from a while ago.
Well
from years
prepared,
ago,
Dimitri.
actually. No, I just remembered from years ago when we were talking, and I was surprised because German railroad. It sounds like you'd assume that the business is in Germany, right? And so 49 countries, you've got to get out that message and other messages. Is that particularly difficult for you? And what have you done, to get better at that over time?
to get the message out that we're an attractive employer. First of all, you really have to work hard on your basis. Therefore, we came up with our employer value proposition. That was the first work we've done when we started and kicked off the whole talent acquisition team years ago. And actually, we have done that exercise now 2 years ago. We restarted the whole exercise because we also changed as an employer. We also changed as a company. And therefore, it's always good to kind of recheck if it's still true. What do I stand for as an employer? You know, what are my traits which are really attractive to the population out there, to the labor market out there? So that's first of all you have to do. And then do a 360-degree employer branding campaign. Not only a little film or not only a little bit work on your career side. Mm-hmm. Let's do the whole thing, the overall approach. And that helped us quite a bit, that we are consistent in what we convey to the market. And then it kicks also something in, and these are our target groups. And when I talk about my target groups out there in the market, these are my customers. My customer is not the hiring manager in the first row. It's not the HR business partner in the second row. No, first of all, it's the candidate out there who might be interested in us and who wants to apply for a job. And understanding these different target groups, that's the key. And they are really different. Actually, we hire a whole town every year, like 25,000, 28,000 people every year. It's like literally a town. So we have the mayor, like the leaders. We have the young people, the school leavers. This year, we hired 5,500 school leavers, for example, for our own apprenticeships. We also have the blue-collar workers. We have the people who studied whatever, engineering or also business administration. So it's really a whole variety of folks we hire for. And therefore, it's not one size fits all. Right. To address a school leaver, it's so different to addressing a IT nerd, for example. Yeah. Totally different story, totally different campaign, totally different storylining. But at the very end of the day, they all have to understand what is Deutsche Bahn all about when I decide myself to work for this company.
Right. I like that analogy to a town. It helps you sort of conceptualize what the task is, right? Because if you build a town and you forget to bring the mayor in, you have a problem.
Could
right?
be very interesting.
Could be interesting, right? Exactly. And so you do need all of those different components to sort of get the thing to keep working well,
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And that's kind of what talent acquisition is about, right? You've got this organization that's big. In your case, 350,000 people all over the world, and it's got to keep running every day, right? Absolutely. And particularly, we assume railroads run every day and on time.
24/7.
24/7.
365 years.
Yeah.
Days a year.
Yeah. And so, does that feel like pressure to you sometimes? Do you feel the pressure of that?
I would say it's from one hand side, it's kind of very interesting, very fascinating job, what I'm lucky to do. That is great. So you have the full scope of talent acquisition, employer branding, recruiting, all these different target groups. So you really, the full-fledged TA. On the other hand, doing that in a tight market, in a super tight market in many countries, that's a challenge. So it's complicated, it's a challenge, and I can't increase the number of people in the market, in the labor market. Therefore, I have to be always on this innovation journey, way ahead of the market. I always have to re-innovate the whole thing, what we are doing. We have to be faster, smarter, more attractive. That's the case, and therefore, it's challenging, not pressure.
Okay.
It's challenging.
Not
Let's
pressure,
phrase it
but
this
challenging.
way.
That's a nice way to say it. Okay. For some of us, it might be pressure, but I'll take that. But so you mentioned tech and innovation, and you've kind of been I would describe you as a serial early adopter. Okay, because I've known you now for I think almost a decade. What's exciting you about technology? What do you think that you've been doing there that's innovative? And I shouldn't even confine it to technology really, because it might just be the way you're going about your business. But where do you think the innovation is, and what are you excited about doing in your organization?
I'm coming back to my customer.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to offer my customer, the candidate, the labor market, an optimal candidate experience. That's the overall target.
Mm-hmm.
And if technology or a smarter process or the way we interact with a candidate makes that feasible, brings me to that target, then super. And therefore, technology helps me in order to make the recruiting process more sexy or more innovative or easy to go. And so we are not doing technology the other way around just for the sake of whatever, being awarded in some competition. That's not the case. And therefore, I'll make you an example. We just launched chatbot also, that you can apply with chatbot, but you also can apply with voice now via our chatbot. And we did that, the first chatbot, because I want to sell a job to my customer.
Right.
And if that customer, through all our employer branding efforts, comes to our website, which is wonderful, scrolls through the whole jobs we can offer right now, and want to apply for a job. Super. Then marketing check. We've done everything fine. And there's one last question. Maybe, do I need a cover letter, for example? Simple question. And then, this person tries to find an answer on our website, wants to call us, can't find it, and all of a sudden he or she is gone.
Yeah.
Therefore, a chatbot is wonderful. You kind of chat very easily with our bot, and then hopefully you will get the right answer, and then you can kind of send your application, and then I want a new applicant. And therefore, that's how we think about using technology, and that's my driver. And the second driver is, frankly, I'm curious. I love to kind of talk about new things, to learn new things. Actually, I think I'm a curious person. You should ask my team or my family.
Right.
But I'm fascinated by learning, what's new, how can we use this new technology or new idea just to constantly improve what we do.
Well, that's interesting because, when we interview and hire people at Avature, we rate their curiosity in our interview process, because it's true. Curious people learn more things without you asking them to do it. Right? They're just curious.
Absolutely. And it's very important. We are in an industry that, changes constantly. In talent acquisition, I've been now in that industry for, 2 decades. And it's a constant change. And it's part of our professionalism that we really, redo stuff, change things. We've done one trend, and then all of a sudden you have to redo it because the labor market is changing. The customer, the candidate is expecting new things. Then all of a sudden you have to really adapt in a very quickly manner. Yeah. And therefore it's kind of a survivor gene, so to speak, in talent acquisition. And I think we want to be trendsetter, and not only trend surfers. We want to be trendsetters.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it does come down to survival and competition for survival, and the evolution that you go through. From when you started maybe 20 years ago and where you are now. Tell me something about that. I mean, how did you get into this in the first place?
In TA, you mean?
Yeah.
It was a coincidence. So I did normal business studies. So I studied abroad. I was in French as a UCRAS, and then I did my MBA in Canada. And so business admin, and I was specialized in marketing and finance.
Okay.
not knowing what is HR all about.
But a marketing background.
Marketing.
Okay.
Marketing was one of my favorite ones.
Yep.
I couldn't imagine working for HR or in HR.
Okay.
And actually, it was my first boss where I got the job at Siemens at that time, and he was looking for an assistant, like a kind of a strategic assistant, and he showed me what is HR all about. And I really got kind of fascinated by the levers you have. If you understand HR in a very professional manner, you really can do a big change in a company, and that people are the most important factors in an industry. And having that in mind, he sent me also to the States. And I spent 1.5 years in Boston. Siemens bought 3 startup companies, 300-person companies, and we merged them to one, and then we tried to grow that company. So I really was working in a startup atmosphere. And startup is always, if you want to grow, you have to recruit people.
Yes.
And that was my first encounter with hiring people. Wow. How does that work? Okay, so, and combined with how to hire people for a startup where you really need high performance.
Yep.
And you have like really motivated people. So recruiting was key. And that was really my first encounter. I really loved to learn more about, how to position yourself. Also, as a startup, you're not very well known in a labor market. And so coming back from my US adventure after 18 months, I went to my boss at that time. I told them, look, we have to change things. We have to do recruiting in a different way. And so the fire was there, and then I got the first team in recruiting, and so the whole story started from there.
Yeah, well, I think, that's an interesting story. I didn't know that about you, and I must admit that that was a great way to sort of connect recruiting to really growth and success of a company, because when you're in those startups, you realize that if you don't get the people, you just don't. Nothing happens at all. And you can miss that sometimes, that feeling when you're in a very large company and you're adding 2,000 people to 100,000 people. Maybe it's important, maybe it's not. Today, of course, it's become very important, right?
It is important. I think that's one of the most strategic topics, because without people, you can't, grow, you can't be successful in business. And even, bringing people to the job or the job to the people, that's also valid when you do restructuring. Also in another scenario where you kind of, decrease your number of people, still there. I also got to that phase. How can you place your people, which you don't need anymore, in the market? And there is the same, not game, but the same. You have to match, jobs to people, and the dynamic is the same. Yeah. And understanding markets, understanding labor market, understanding profiles, and how profiles also kind of changing and evolving over time, because new skills were added to profiles. That is my turf of fascination.
Yeah. Well, that's what we call it strategic HR, right? We say that there's that HR activities. Those HR activities that really shape the culture or shape the company's ability to respond to whatever they're responding to in whatever's going on outside the organization. And it's great that you sort of had that, almost a case study experience in that, in the startup world. You've got a pretty big team now. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to guess about 1,000.
Over 1,000. Yeah.
Can you give us an idea of how that's made up and how you created it and how it's structured and how you get it to do what you want to get done?
Absolutely. More than happy to do that. We have a full TA house, and in that house, I'm a really lucky person that everything is in that house which is needed in order to do a modern, very innovative talent acquisition job. Mm-hmm. And it starts with the governance piece, so the talent acquisition strategy we create and craft ourselves in that team. And on the other hand, we also do the operations. We do the operations for the whole town we hire.
Right.
So I have recruiters who hire only IT folks, or the engineers, engineering experts, just hiring engineers in all these different facets, or whatever for the school leavers. They are totally different recruiters for school leavers because they speak a totally different language.
Okay.
So that is something we do on the recruiting piece, and we also do everything around employer branding. We have an own employer branding team. We have an own social media team, telling around numbers. And we also installed now, it's kind of new, installed a data analytics team, experts on that. What else? We have a sourcing team, active sourcers, talking to people out there, identify people out there. And that's one of the newest teams, that is the cross-border recruiting topic. So if you have a tight market in, for example, Germany, you can't increase it like that. If you want to increase it, you have to go cross-border in order to find folks there. And therefore, that is really an intensive work, because it's not only hiring somebody on a quickly manner, you also have to integrate people, bring people to Germany, learn languages, and so on and so forth. So we here with the cross-border recruiting team, we are in around 10 countries right now. So that's the overall setup. We do that for a permanent hire, but also for temporary hiring.
Right.
So, and that is really good. So whenever you're a hiring manager, you want to hire an engineer, but I can't get you that engineer right away because I have to wait until this, by the time that the engineer now can come to us in 6 months from now, for example, then I can also offer you an engineer to bridge the 6 months.
Right.
And we hire this engineer through our temp agency, which belongs to us 100%. And what is really important, besides organization, besides, how to specialize people in all these different talent acquisition functions, it's around this innovation mindset. And that is my key thing, how to implement this innovation mindset in a team of 1,000. We're not a startup anymore with over 1,000 people. You're kind of a mid-sized company kind of thing.
Yeah.
So therefore, it was easier when we were like 130 in the beginning. Then it's startup. You know everybody. You can tell everybody what you think, what's your vision, and so on. And therefore, this startup feeling, keeping that startup feeling is key. How do we do that? First of all, it always starts with leadership. It always starts. It starts with us.
Yeah. Sure.
And to be really a role model, not only telling people you have to be innovative, but being a role model, be curious yourself, as we talked about. That is something which is really important. And I also tell people, there is no idea which is too crazy, but you have to spill it out first. And that is something which is so important. You have to walk the talk. And normally the reaction is, I have an idea, but it's not feasible because of whatever. Data protection, because we have no budget. all these reasons why ideas are not realistic. But I tell people, let's give me all your crazy ideas. And then we can talk if we can realize it, or if we can realize it in a different manner. But first of all, we have to talk about it first. And second thing is, we have 1,000 great brains. And I would be stupid not to use 1,000 great brains when it comes to be kind of trendsetter, to perform better. Whenever we have something we want to solve, then we ask a lot of people. Or I make you an example. We currently do like our roadmap for next year. What's important for next year for our team. And that's not a first discussion in my leadership team. The first discussion is send an email out, shout it out to 1,000 people, and tell me
what you think.
What should be on the roadmap, in your opinion? And there we create great ideas, and we have also a good opinion on, what's important to all our folks. And then we kind of do our roadmap, and then it's not finalized, then we put these projects out there on our Teams channel, and then you can choose for which project you want to work for. So it's up to you to stand up and say, look, that's my interest point, and I want to contribute to that specific project. And then the last thing is that we do like kind of discussions around these projects every 2 months. And there, again, the same story, we invite everybody in order to kind of get more ideas on refining, the milestones and the project results. So that is kind of starts with leadership, and it also you need some formats like this, like roadmap and so on. Like you can't say you have to be innovative right away.
Right.
You have to train that.
Yeah.
And last but not least, and that is something I've learned during Corona, during the pandemic situation, is change. And we're in a constant change as TA. You have to give people an opportunity to learn, because normally change, there's normally a hurdle if you are anxious, if you don't know how to do your new job, because the job is changing. Therefore, you need more new skills.
Yeah.
And therefore, we founded our own TA Academy, where people can learn new things, new trends, new technology. We enable our own people. And we do that every Monday morning from 8:30 to 10:30. That's our learning time together. And there you can go to our TA Academy on a virtual basis. Either you do like a live session, or you have like pre-recorded courses, and then you train yourself. So I give you the time, and learning and growing, that's the core of our TA spirit.
That's very interesting. That's a very bottoms-up approach, a very organic approach to managing a group of people. While we're talking about jobs and the way they evolve, let's talk a little bit about the jobs in talent acquisition, because there's a lot of new tools, right? We've got AI out there, and we know that's going to change the landscape significantly. What are you thinking about right now in relation to artificial intelligence, and how big an impact do you think that's going to have on the work that you do for your company and for your team itself that does this work?
We are currently looking into all these trends and technologies. And if I think in the TA future, I would say AI plays definitely a major role, will play a major role. And therefore we also push hard on that and try to figure out, how can AI helps us in become better in recruiting and talent acquisition. So that's the first thing. We also look currently into virtual reality, augmented reality, metaverse, all these things, kind of these setting, and therefore we also explore metaverse for us, and we will launch that now in the near future, let's phrase it this way. So that will be also a very important thing. And also data, around the whole data topic, analytics, that will help us also kind of, do better analysis, prognosis, and stuff like that. And that's the tech part, that's the data part, and it will stay, and it will help us. But on the other hand, you also have the human part, like, the trends in terms of candidates, what do they look for? And this trend will definitely be flexibility. All our candidates are really looking for flexible, not only hours, but where to work, what to work. Can I do another project in parallel to my normal job? So that will also kind of evolve and change. And I think with all the speed we have around us, and also in TA, all these changes, learning, we talked about learning will be a trend, will stay as a trend, and a very necessary thing.
Yeah, we see learning really having to evolve to fit what we talk about in terms of this flexibility and change, right? Because it's got to become very, very dynamic and very on demand. And very bespoke to each individual experience, because people are now moving around more, so the experiences are much more individual, right?
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for coming in. Really appreciate it. And thank you all for listening.